Hello, I'm Nima Rajan. An explosive report accuses Russia of paying bounties to Taliban fighters for killing American troops in Afghanistan. U.S. President Donald Trump says he was not aware, but both the New York Times and the Associated Press report that intelligence was included in at least one of his daily briefings. U.S. National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien says Trump was not briefed because the information was not verified. Republicans who attended a Monday briefing on the matter expressed alarm about Russia's activities in Afghanistan and urged the administration to hold Russian President Vladimir Putin accountable. Well, there are fears in Hong Kong and around the world about what will happen now that China has approved a contentious national security law. It will let authorities crack down on subversive and secessionist activity, which is a move seen as Beijing's boldest yet to erase the legal firewall between the semi-autonomous territory and the mainland's communist system. Amnesty International's China team says passage of the law represents the greatest threat to human rights in Hong Kong's recent history. The law has fueled a widening divide between China and the United States and some other countries over the future of Hong Kong. Canadians are on the list of travelers from 14 countries that will be allowed to enter the European Union, but Americans are not. The EU says Americans will be refused entry for at least another 2 weeks due to soaring coronavirus infections in the U.S. Travelers from other big countries like Russia, Brazil, and India will also remain barred for now. Countries on the safe list are also expected to lift any bans that they might have in place on European travelers. Statistics Canada reports gross domestic product plunged a record 11.6% in April as the economy came to a near standstill due to the COVID-19 pandemic. April was the first full month that non-essential businesses were shut down. Manufacturing was down 22.5%, while the output of the accommodation and food services sector dropped 42.4%. Statistics Canada says its initial flash estimate for May points to growth of 3%. BC Health Minister Adrian Dix wants Transport Canada and Health Canada to explain why they have let Air Canada and WestJet drop their in-flight distancing policies designed to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Air Canada and WestJet are ending their onboard seat distancing policies starting tomorrow, in line with health recommendations from the UN's aviation industry and the International Air Transport Association trade group. Transport Canada says its recommendations for passenger spacing are not mandatory. Well, by this time next week, it could be mandatory for Torontonians to wear a mask in public indoor settings to help slow the spread of COVID-19. That's if the measure is approved by City Council. Yesterday, Ontario Premier Doug Ford rejected a call by mayors from the Greater Toronto and Hamilton areas to make masks mandatory province-wide. A Winnipeg woman has been handed 6 years in prison for trying to pick up a toxin in North Dakota. The 37-year-old pleaded guilty in a U.S. District Court on one count to attempt to acquire a chemical weapon. Court documents show that the woman contacted an undercover FBI employee on the dark web wanting to obtain a toxin and protective equipment to handle the chemical safely. She is being held in a U.S. jail until she can be transferred to Canada to serve her sentence. Alberta's opposition leader says the $10 billion that the government is pumping into infrastructure will help as a short-term shock absorber. Premier Kenney announced an immediate $10 billion will be spent on a range of infrastructure projects, including roads, healthcare facilities, and schools, to create construction jobs to rebound from the COVID-19 pandemic. NDP leader Rachel Notley says the corporate income tax cut that Premier Jason Kenney also announced yesterday won't help, saying that a tax cut didn't bring back jobs before the pandemic and won't bring them back after. Cineplex is reopening some of its theaters in BC, Saskatchewan, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland on Friday. On Monday, the movie theater company reported a first-quarter loss of $178.4 million. Cineplex is also vowing to sue British-based Cineworld for calling off its $2.8 billion takeover of the company. The Supreme Court has issued its first major abortion ruling since President Donald Trump took office. In a 5-4 decision Monday, the High Court struck down a Louisiana law that could restrict access to abortion. It was viewed as a key test of the court's stance following President Trump's appointments of 2 conservative justices. Anti-abortion leaders say there is an urgent need to re-elect Trump so that he can appoint more conservative justices. Abortion rights activists say it is crucial to defeat Trump and end Republican control of the Senate. The European Union's Aviation Safety Agency says Pakistan's national airline will not be allowed to fly into Europe for at least 6 months. The move Tuesday comes after the country's aviation minister revealed that nearly a third of Pakistani pilots had cheated on their pilots' exams. Pakistan International Airlines spokesman said PIA has not been flying to Europe because of the pandemic, but the airline had hoped to resume its flights within the next 2 months. A Florida company wants to start offering people 6-hour flights from Alaska to the edge of space in a pressurized capsule suspended under a hydrogen balloon that's the size of a football stadium. A flight aboard the spaceship Neptune would cost about $125,000. Space Perspective says passengers will begin with a 2-hour ascent to about 31 kilometers above Earth and would be able to post on social media about the experience or send data before splashing down in the Gulf of Alaska. Well, it's not going to be a regular Canada Day as usual for a lot of people across the country because of the COVID-19 pandemic. A new Leger poll suggests that 38% of those surveyed are less likely to mark the holiday. The number is even higher in Ontario and Alberta, where 44% say they're less likely to mark the occasion. Still, 16% they will find some way to celebrate, even if it's just a small gathering of friends and neighbors. Well, that'll do it for today's news update. I'm Nima Rajan. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.